Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Gita Sisi Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Radha Kunda Govardhan Gita Sri Vrindavan Dham Gita Mayapur Dham Gita Jagannath Puri Dham Gita Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to Sri Guru and Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 4, Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj returns home. On the glorious text 60, but there are 2 verses before it without purports, so I'll read those first. Uttamascha Prabhasjo Ananyam Premavivaro Amgasangaru Akav Asrongam Gurukata. The 2 brothers, Uttama and Dhruva Maharaj, also exchanged their tears. They were overwhelmed by the ecstasy of love and affection. And when they embraced one another, the hair on their bodies stood up. Sulitirasya janani ane jyoti priyam sudam Urbaku bhavatavatadhim karanga sparshanidrika. Suniti, the real mother of Dhruva Maharaj, embraced the tender body of her son, who was dearer to her than her own life, and thus forgot all material grief. She was very pleased. Then today's verse. Prayastanam yamsuo shrava Prayastanam yamsu shrava
Tadavisi Chamanabhyam Vira Vira Sukho.
Vaya, milk. Stanabhyam, from both breasts. Shushrava began to slow down. Netrajai, from the eyes. Sarilai, by tears. Shivai, auspicious. Tada, at that time. Abhisijamanabhyam, being wetted. Vira, my dear Vidura. Vira Subha, of the mother who gave birth to a hero. Mohu, constant. Translation. My dear Vidura, Suniti was the mother of the great hero. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breasts, wet the whole body of Dhruva Maharaj. This was a great auspicious sign. Please repeat. My dear Vidura, Suniti was the mother of a great hero. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breasts, wet the whole body of Dhruva Maharaj. This was a great auspicious sign. Purport by Srimad Bhagavatam. When deities are installed, they are washed with milk, yogurt, and water. And this ceremony is called an abhishek. In this verse, it has been especially mentioned that the tears which flowed down from the eyes of Suniti were all auspicious. This auspiciousness of the abhishek ceremony performed by his beloved mother was an indication that in the very near future, Dhruva Maharaj would be installed on the throne of his father. The history of Dhruva Maharaj's leaving home was that his father refused to give him a place on his lap, and Dhruva Maharaj determined that unless he got the throne of his father, he would not come back home. Now, this abhishek ceremony performed by his beloved mother was an indication that he would occupy the throne of Maharaj Uddanapati. It is also significant in this verse that Suniti, the mother of Dhruva Maharaj, is described as Vira Su, the mother who produced a great hero. There are many heroes in the world, but there is no comparison to Dhruva Maharaj, who was not only a heroic emperor of this planet, but also a great devotee. A devotee is a great hero because he conquers the influence of mind. When Lord Chaitanya inquired from Ramananda Rai about the most famous man in the world, the latter replied that anyone who is known as a great devotee of the Lord is to be accepted as the most famous. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Savadaya Shunyaritam Jnana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ayhastanam Shushravad Nitrai Jalai Savidai Shiva Tada Isichamana Vinam Vira Vira Sukho. My dear Vidura, Suniti was the mother of a great hero. Her tears, together with the milk flowing from her breasts, wet the whole body of Dhruva Maharaj. This was a great auspicious sign. Last week, we spoke on this verse. It was Dhruva Maharaj lamenting, even after he had achieved perfection. He thought, I was under the influence of the illusory energy, being ignorant of the actual facts. I was sitting on her lap. Under a vision of duality, I saw my brother as my enemy, and falsely I lamented within my heart, thinking, they are my enemies. In the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada was explaining how our loved near and dear ones and our enemies are false concepts in this material world. They're illusion. We gave the example of a dream. In a dream, we make up so much events that take place. But when we awake, they dissipate, they're gone, they don't exist. So, here we have a mother and a brother receiving their near and dear relative back home, and they're an ecstasy of love. So how do these two reconcile? On the one hand, we're being told that all our relationships in this material world are illusion, that they have no meaning, no true, real reality. And on the other, we have great sages, Sukadeva Goswami, Maitreya, H.G.Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu, hearing the story of this family who's enjoying the return of their son. If the story read, there was a king who had 2 wives, who had 2 children, and one of the children tried to get on the lap of the king, but the stepmother became angry and said, "No, you can't sit on that, only my son can sit there." So the other son became angry, frustrated, envious, and left home, 5 years old, and everybody in the palace lamented. And he went out into the forest for 6 months and nobody saw him. And then a messenger came by and said, "Oh, he's coming back." And then the son returned, everybody would be happy. So what's so unique about this story? Why is it in the Srimad Bhagavatam? It's the same thing, isn't it? No, it's not the same. There's an active ingredient that transforms the entire dynamic of this view. What is that dynamic? Huh? Yes, he had darshan of the Supreme Lord. He attained perfection. Krishna is the added ingredient. In the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, the Lord's explaining to Arjuna that this world is a reflection of the spiritual world. It's like that example of everybody's read it, it's the example of the clear body of water with the tree, the banyan tree on one side of it. And as we on this side look at the banyan tree, we see the upside down image in the water. So imagine for a moment that all the souls in this universe are like Alice in Wonderland. They've gone through the looking glass. You're looking at a mirror. And imagine that, like in today's graphics with all the movies and everything, it's not hard to imagine you enter into the mirror world, where everything is a reflection of reality. But it appears real to everybody in the reflected world. But if you're outside of the mirror and you move your right hand, what happens to the image in the mirror? It's the left hand. If you write something and you hold it up in front of the mirror, do you see a readable image? No, it's inside out and inverted. It's backwards and it's inverted. It's perverted. So similarly, we've come into this world and all the relationships that we have, all the experiences that we undergo are reflected images. They're not real. So when the Mayavadis, what is that verse that the Mayavadis say about Jagannath? Brahma Satya, Jagan Brahma Satya. The spiritual world is true, Brahma Satya, Jagan but this world is illusion. In one sense, they're right. It is an illusion. Unless you have that active ingredient. When Lord Krishna was speaking with Lord Brahma, everybody remembers the story of Lord Brahma was the first created being. He was all by himself in the dark, empty universe. And he performed tapasya. He heard the words tapa. And he underwent meditation and introspection, trying to understand who he was. Why am I here? What is this place? And after a long time of his penance, the Lord was pleased with his penance and revealed himself and spoke only 4 verses, which are called the Tattva Sloki, 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then, of course, Brahma explained it to Narada. Narada further explained it to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then there are so many commentaries as we reach to the Prabhupada's commentaries explaining the same core concepts. One of those verses is, Pratyayam yam pratyeta na pratyeta chapnani tad vidhara manomaya yatha aso yatha maha. What appears to be truth without me is certainly my illusory energy. For nothing can exist without me. It is like a reflection of the real light in the shadows. For in the light, there is neither shadow nor reflection. Whenever we have a light, there are two concomitant aspects to that light, or results, byproducts of a light. Shadow and reflection. Reflection is called pratibimba, and a shadow is called abhas. Perhaps you've heard the word nam abhas. Nam abhas means that you're chanting, but it's not sudanam, it's not pure name, it's a shadow of the name. So there's also bhakti abhas, bhakti abhas. It's not sudha bhakti, it's mixed bhakti, it's a shadow of real bhakti. So in this material world, what we experience is love abhas. It's a shadow, or even love pratibimba, which is a reflection of love. So the question naturally arises, how do we find real love? Where do we find reality? How can we come in contact? How can we get out of the illusion? Because what's happening around us in the entire universe, from Lord Brahma down to the ant, and we can see it on this planet in so many different cultures and civilizations, is an entire network, a colossal hoax of a network of illusion that's being fed to us constantly from the time of birth. You are this body, you're my son, you're my daughter, you're my loved one, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my bank accountant, you're my whatever. And this whole big hoax, colossal illusion, binds the living entity while he thinks, I'm enjoying. I love my baby. On the plane here, 15 hours stuck in a little chair with a box of movies in front of you. We were checking them out, going through them. It's not very much one. It's called Babies. And what they did was, it was a documentary where they went to different parts of the world. They went to South Korea, Mongolia, Africa, and New York, or America. And they filmed the birth of a baby and the first year or two of their upbringing to show how different cultures deal with babies. Immediately upon the birth of a baby, there's attachment. Even psychologists call it attachment. It's good, it's wanted, because a baby that is loved and wanted and caressed and loved will be a balanced individual, whereas if one is just, tossed to the side. Oh, I saw one where there was a monkey, and the monkey had the option of one mother that was a grill. It was a metal grill with a milk bag, a milk bottle, so it could get fed. And the other door that the monkey could go through was a nice, soft, cuddly mother type of figure that it could cuddle up against. One was food, one was comfort. What do you think the monkey went for?
Comfort.
It's astounding. Rather than survive, it would run to the comfort and just cuddle and want to be cuddled. So there's a whole psychology to upbringing children that we don't want to get into. But what is going on here? Suniti is seeing her child as a natural maternal instinct that breasts fill up with milk, and her tears and ecstasy out of nuts. What? Because Krishna was there. This morning I saw Vaishasika and Madhav Maharaj see each other for the first time in quite some time. Oh, they embraced it. Hare Krishna. Because Krishna was there. It's so different when Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India. Ramananda Roy, he knew Ramananda Roy, who was Vishaka, he's Krishna. And Vishaka was there in Guruvai, in Madras, Chennai. And he had been with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And he was going to go on his South Indian tour. So Sarvabhauma told him that I can tell by your bow that you should meet one man named Ramananda Roy. I thought he was just a sentimentalist, but actually he has great love for Krishna. You please make a point to meet him. So, as he was traveling, Krishna was thinking of the Shire. Lord Chaitanya was wanting to meet Ramananda Roy. And he came to the river Godavari, bathed in the river, went to the other side, and he sat down and reminded him of the Jamuna. He thought he was in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya was always like that. And he was chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Absorbed in ecstasy. And all of a sudden there was loud music. The governor, with 200 associates, was traveling in his palanquin down to the river. They all got down, they did some kopa, the Brahmins were doing all the different things. So the governor would take his bath, he took bath, and he saw the sannyasi on the other side of the river. Oh. So somehow he crossed the river, came and bowed down before Lord Chaitanya, all the Brahmins. Maybe Brahmins were there, and Lord Chaitanya embraced. And they were so in ecstasy of meeting one another that they fell to the ground, rolling in the dust, and the lips and the name Krishna came from their mouths. And the Vedic Brahmins, they saw the sannyasi, who's not really supposed to associate so intimately with a Sudra government minister, embracing one another in the Sudra government minister is like this renunciate, what they're holding on the ground, they're madmen. So they couldn't understand this love. But whenever there's Krishna, it transforms everything. And there's a beautiful Leela that Krishna performed. Right here in Vrindavan, he performed the Leela that, just like cooking or sugarcane juice, it became sweeter and sweeter as the Leela unfolded. So, you say you can't hear me, I'm talking right into the mic. Can you turn it on, Prabhu? You can't hear me? So when Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the pastimes of Krishna, he told the story of how all the cowherd boys had entered into the huge serpent. If you go out the Delhi road, take a right towards Delhi, go a few kilometers on the left-hand side of the road, there's a village there where Aghasura was killed. So when he was speaking about that pastime, he indicated at the end of the Leela, after Krishna had killed Aghasura, and if you remember, Aghasura's spirit soul hovered in the sky until Krishna came out, and then it entered into him. And he told Maharaj Prabhu that this incident wasn't spoken of in Braj for an entire year. So what's the natural question? Why? What happened? And that's where we'll begin this narration. Sukadeva Goswami said, O best of devotees, most famous and great, you have inquired very nicely, for although constantly hearing the pastimes of the Lord, you are perceiving his activities to be newer and newer. Paramahamsas, devotees who have accepted the essence of life, are attached to Krishna in the core of their hearts, and he is the aim of their lives. It is their nature to talk only of Krishna at every moment, as if such topics were newer and newer. They are attached to such topics, just as materialists are attached to topics of women and sex. So, back to our concept, our question. How do we find out where real love exists? How do we extract ourselves? How do we find the path out of the reflection world? The answer is, you have to find somebody who's not in the reflected world, who's not bound by the modes of material nature and bound by the network of illusion in this universe. We have to find liberated souls from the spiritual sky and hear their transmissions, hear the information. The reason we're in this world, the reason we're victimized by it, is due to nescience, it's due to ignorance of our true nature. It's been so covered, our love, our inherent love for Krishna, has been so covered, so entangled, so distorted, so corrupt, that we no longer know what it is. We've lost it. It's gone. We don't have it. It's gone. But it can be revived. Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Satyakabhamaya, Sravanari, Sudachika, Orya, just like the sun. When the sun comes up, it doesn't always come. It's a very subtle transformation. Wake up at 2 o'clock, then as we go outside, we start to see the forms of the things in the world manifest, and very ever so subtly, those things become in our vision, until finally the sun arises and then everything is seen clearly. So this process of Krishna consciousness is the exact same gradual, slow, progressive process by which from hearing we gather information, we act on it. Tesham satatiyuktanam bhajatam dipurvakam tadani yogam nenamam te Krishna gives intelligence, we surrender. One tendency that we see manifests in bhakti that is worthy of attention is that once we hear, once we've read all the books and know all the stories, there's a tendency to do your service and not read anymore. Maybe hear a class, maybe listen to a lecture, but reading kind of takes a back seat. Sometimes it even kind of doesn't exist very much anymore for a lot of devotees, even senior devotees, because they're into their service. I'm doing it for Krishna. But the process is described by Rupa Goswami and right here by Sukadeva Goswami. If one follows it, then something different really happens. An attraction, a ruchi, a taste develops for hearing about Krishna. One actually wants to spend less time involved in the material network and more time sitting and reading or listening to a lecture or chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, increasing one's round. These are symptoms that one should see, experience. These are described in Shastra as, yes, you're on the right path, like signs when you're coming from Delhi. You see Mathura, Govardhan, Radhakund. Oh yes, I'm on the right path, I'm on the right road, I'm headed home. So if we're not experiencing these things, time for some introspection, consideration why, and apply the process. The process works. Srila Kirti, for those of you who weren't here last few days, explained so nicely. People would come to Srila Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, I'm not experiencing this, I'm not experiencing that, I'm having trouble with this. Prabhupada said, apply the process, consider what you're not doing. This is a scientific process that works. Apply the process, you'll get the result. So somehow or another the process isn't being applied properly if the results aren't manifested. Okay. Kindly hear me with great attention. Although the activities of the Supreme Lord are very confidential, no ordinary being able to understand, no ordinary man being able to understand them, I shall speak about them to you. For spiritual masters explain to a submissive disciple even subject matters that are very confidential and difficult to understand. After saving the boys and the calves from the mountain of Agasura, who is death personified, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, brought them all to the banks of the river and spoke as follows. Oh, dear friends, just see how this riverbank is extremely beautiful because of these peaceful atmosphere. And just see how the blooming lotuses are attracting bees and birds by their aroma. The humming and chirping of the bees and birds is echoing throughout the beautiful trees in the forest. And here the sands are clean and soft. Therefore, this must be considered the best place for our sporting pastime. Has anybody been to Shergao? Where this took place. You can go up the river, beautiful spot. Now the river's obviously not down, so the sand isn't there. But when the river comes around in certain times of the year, it's a very flat place with a lot of beautiful soft sand and the river curves in that area. I think we should take our lunch here, since we are already hungry because the time is very late. Here the calves may drink the water and go slowly here and there to eat the grasses. Accepting Lord Krishna's proposal, our boys allowed the calves to drink water from the river, and then tied them to trees where the grass was green. Then the boys opened their baskets with food, and began eating with Krishna in great transcendental pleasure. Like the whorl of a lotus flower surrounded by its petals and leaves, Krishna sat in the center, encircled by the lines of his friends, who all looked very beautiful. Every one of them was trying to look forward toward Krishna, thinking that Krishna might look toward him. In this way, they all enjoyed their lunch in the forest. The purport describes that Krishna's Sankalpa Shakti, the Shakti that fulfills all desires, made it so that each boy thought that Krishna was sitting next to him looking at him, unknown to all the others. So Krishna was in the center, everybody was eating their lunch, hoping Krishna would look at them, and indeed, due to their desire to sit with Krishna, they were sitting, having lunch with Krishna, looking right at them, and being the most attractive, supreme person, they brought pleasure to their hearts. All the cowherd boys enjoyed their lunch with Krishna, showing one another different tastes and different varieties of preparations they had brought from home. Tasting one another's preparations, they began to laugh and make one another laugh. Krishna is Yajna Bhuk, that is, he eats only offerings of yajna. But to exhibit his childhood pastimes, he now sat with his flute tucked between his waist and his tight cloth on his right side, and with his horn, bugle, and cowherd driving a stick on his left, holding in his hand a very nice preparation of yogurt and rice, with pieces of suitable fruit between his fingers. He sat like the whorl of a lotus flower, looking forward toward all his friends, personally joking with them, creating jubilant laughter amongst them as he ate. At that time, the denizens of heaven were watching, struck with wonder at how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who eats only yajna, was now eating with his friends in the forest. O Maharaj Prabhu, while the cowherd boys who knew nothing within the core of their hearts but Krishna were thus engaged in eating their lunch in the forest, the calves went far away, deep into the forest, allured by green grasses. When Krishna saw that his friends, the cowherd boys, were frightened, the fierce controller of even fear itself said, just to mitigate their fear, "My dear friends, do not stop eating. I shall bring your calves back to the spot personally after going for them myself. Let me go and search for the calves. Do not disturb your enjoyment." How old is Krishna here? Yes, anybody? 8? Is he 8? No, he's not 8. How old was he when he lifted Govardhan Hill? 7. This happened before that. So he's 6, 5, 6, 7. Because at 5, wasn't it 5? When they entered Pagonda age, Talavan Forest, Devakusur, it's described that at that time, the boys were given care of the calves. So they have calves, they don't have cows. They have the little ones. And this way they get trained up. Prabhupada gives a beautiful example of how such a natural life, running here and there, taking care of the cows, sporting, playing games, swimming in the river Jamuna, such a natural, healthy way of life Krishna lived. So now the calves have slipped away. Then, carrying his yogurt and rice in his hand, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, immediately went out to search for the calves and his calves of his friends. To please his friends, he began searching in all the mountains, mountain caves, bushes, narrow passages. O Maharaj Prabhu, Brahma, who resides in the higher planetary system of the sky, had observed the activities of the most powerful Krishna in killing and delivering Aghasura. He was astonished. Now that same Brahma wanted to show some of his own power and see the power of Krishna, who was engaged in his childhood pastimes, playing as if with ordinary cowherd boys. Therefore, in Krishna's absence, Brahma took all the boys and calves to another place. Thus, he became entangled, for in the very near future he would see how powerful Krishna is. One of the wonderful relishable aspects of this particular book, it's a commentary on the 10th canto by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Prabhupada used Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Sri Har Swami's commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. He would read their commentary, then he would compose his own. So here we have just a little more, a little different, a little added flavor that Srila Prabhupada didn't include in his Krishna book. For the next month, starting tomorrow night in the Balaram Hall, the newly constructed old Prashadam Hall, from 5:30 to 6:30, we're going to be reading Rasa Leela from the first Krishna book and go through it with Srila Prabhupada's writings. Then we'll go into Saraka Darshini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and compare them and explain Krishna's Rasa Leela. So for the whole month of Karti, before evening Arti, we'll be having that reading if anyone wants to join us in that hall from 5:30 to 6:30. But here's a sample of something that you may not have known, the detail of what took place. One should not, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, one should not claim that Brahma's power of illusion could actually exert its influence over omniscient Krishna and his dear cowherd boys, because a later verse says, Vatsam Pulinam Animya. As before, Krishna took the calves to the riverbed. Krishna's Leela Shakti allowed Putana to bewilder both Yasoda and Krishna in order to produce Vismaya Rasa, astonishment, in the Lord's transcendental pastimes. This explains how it was just manipulated, conceived, that a demoness could transform herself into a beautiful woman, enter Nanda Maharaj's house, walk past Rohini and Yasoda, and pick up baby Krishna. It's Krishna's Leela Shakti covering everyone, so that Visamya Rasa, an astonishment, could manifest. Putana could never have caused such bewilderment on her own. Brahma's power of illusion put the boys to sleep, but this was allowed only for the purpose of Krishna's pastimes. In actuality, the cowherd boys were put to sleep by Krishna's Yogamaya potency. This can be understood from a later statement, Krishna Maya Atatatmana. The cowherd boys were bewildered by Krishna's mind. One should not claim that after being bewildered by Krishna, boys were taken somewhere else by Brahma, because Brahma later said, these boys are not sleeping by my mind. Where did they come from? So in order to do this timely, he further describes that what happened was that Krishna's external energy, Maya, immediately upon Brahma's coming down to steal the boys, Krishna's Yogamaya hid the boys and manifested external energy boys. And that is what Brahma stole. He didn't take the original cowherd boys and calves. Those are Krishna's Nityasiddha associates, his eternal associates. He doesn't have power over them. He can't put them in illusion. So once again, they're out of the reflected world. They're living in this world. And when Krishna comes here and performs his what's called Boma Leela. Boma means earth. Boma Leela. So, the question, we'll get back to our original, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Brahma, truth, is eternal and truthful and exists, but Jagat Mithya, it's illusion. Is this world illusion? Even when Krishna comes here and performs his pastimes, is it illusion? No, it's not illusion. Back to the chapter slogan. What appears to be truth without me is certainly illusion. It's like when you buy toothpaste. It says active ingredient, fluoride, and everything else is called inert or inactive ingredient. So many products are like that. If it doesn't have the active ingredient, then it's inert, inactive ingredients. It doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't clean. So, without Krishna, this world is illusion. It's an illusion to see this world without Krishna. Bhavaram janmanamante, jnanabrahman prabhadyante, vasudeva sarvamiti. It means one that has undergone birth after birth after birth, finally comes into knowledge and he sees, oh, everything is Krishna. Then it's not illusion anymore. He sees the world as it is, temporary, but it's real. And therefore, one's relationships that are including Krishna are real, wanted, encouraged, should be nurtured. So why is Suniti overwhelmed by seeing her son? Because he has Krishna in his heart. He's seeing Krishna. Shri Kirti, it's so nice to hear him speak about Srila Prabhupada and pastimes. You can just feel, you can sense it, how someone in Srila Prabhupada's presence experienced Krishna. So similarly, when, I think we read, what is yesterday's verses really was? Unto one who has transcendental qualities due to friendly behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities offer honor, just as water automatically flows down by nature. So just as water flows down by nature, Sri Kirti was explaining yesterday, anybody who met Prabhupada and felt that presence of Krishna. So Suniti has a slightly different relationship with her son, and he has Krishna. So what an aspect. I mean, imagine how much flow of tears and milk there must have been to entirely wet his body. That's a lot of liquid coming from her and his mother. And she's embracing him and loving him. And it's seen as an auspicious son. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya uses the name Divyoga Chandra. The transcendental conchos of Krishna and Arjuna, when they blew, gave some indication what's going to happen here. It's already known. So what happens, everybody knows the story, but it's beautifully described, how Krishna, when he comes back and sees that his cowherd boys and calves have disappeared, he manifests as each one of them as they existed. Same clothes, same features, same characteristics, every calf and every cowherd boy. Like Krishna took their place. He created a double and became that person. And then he entered into Braj. So the mothers of the calves and the mothers of those cowherd boys, now they're receiving their loved ones in the form of their children, they thought, when in actuality, it was Krishna. And it's described that love increased manyfold because inherent, naturally, it's like wood is in, and fire is in wood. It's inherent, it's there. If you put the wood near fire, it comes out. The wood catches on fire. So every living entity, everything, even his internal Shakti, everything is naturally attracted to Krishna. Just like iron firemen, boom, they go. It's natural. They go to it. So
the mothers were naturally even more in love with their descendants. The calves started licking the bodies, just like they were going to swallow the calves. And then the boys came home, and the mothers took off their clothes and bathed them with oil, and were bathing them and massaging them after a long day of taking care of the calves outside, loving their children for an entire year. And by Krishna's Yogamaya potency, Leela Shakti, all those young gopis who wanted to get married to Krishna, but their parents arranged some other boy, some other cowherd boy in town became their husband. In actuality, who became their husband? Krishna. Because he was the cowherd boy that they married. So in this way, because of the Krishna ingredient for one whole year, then let's read about what happened and how it was revealed to Balaram, who couldn't even catch this. Even Balaram, Krishna's brother, his first expansion, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent. Even he could understand, he didn't catch it. And it's a very nice description. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna, having himself become the cowherd boys and groups of calves, maintained himself by himself. Thus he continued his pastimes both in Vrindavan and in the forest for a full year. One day, 5 or 6 nights before the completion of the year, Krishna, tending the cows, entered the forest along with Balaram. While pasturing atop Govardhan Hill, some of the cows looked down to find some green grass and saw their calves pasturing near Vrindavan, not very far away. When the cows saw their calves from the top of Govardhan Hill, they forgot themselves and their caretakers because of increased affection. And although the path was very rough, they ran toward their calves with great anxiety, each running as if on one pair of legs. Their milk bags full and flowing with milk, their heads and tails raised, and their humps moving with their necks. They ran forcibly until they reached their calves to feed them. The cows, those cows, had given birth to new calves. But while coming down from Govardhan Hill, the cows, because of increased affection for the older calves, allowed the older calves to drink the milk from their milk bags, and then began licking their bodies in great anxiety, as if wanting to swallow them. Commentary. Although the cows had given birth to new calves, they had more affection for the older calves. Thus they came down from Govardhan Hill to feel the older calves and pouring milk from their udders. This is what Balaram saw, and that was the hint that gave it away. Why are these cows feeding those older calves rather than their young babies? If you know anything about Go Seva, after a cow gives birth, after a year or two, and when they have a new calf, they always feed the new calf, and the older calf doesn't need milk anymore, just the children. If you have a baby, you feed it for a while, and have another child, that new child gets the milk. It's rare that the mother feeds the baby that. So when Balaram saw this, the cowherd men also gave it. The cowherd men, having been unable to check their cows from going to see their calves, felt simultaneously ashamed and angry. You see the nature of these rich bastards when the cow got loose. They crossed the rough road with great difficulty. But when they came down the hill and saw their own sons, they were overwhelmed with great affection. All the thoughts of the cowherd men merged into the mellow of paternal love, which was aroused by the sight of their sons. Experiencing a great attraction, their anger completely disappeared. They lifted their son and embraced them with their arms, enjoying the highest pleasure. Thereafter, the elderly cowherd men, having obtained great feelings from embracing their sons, gradually, with great difficulty and reluctance, ceased embracing them and returned to the forest. But as the men remembered their sons, tears flowed down from their eyes. Who knows the prayer by Lord Chaitanya about tears flowing from their eyes? choking of the voice when he chants Hare Krishna Maha. Anybody have a microphone? Can you get the microphone? I'll get back to the microphone. Because of an increase of affection, cows have constant attachment even to those calves that were grown up and had stopped sucking milk from their mothers. When Baladev saw this attachment, he was unable to understand the reason for it, and thus he began to consider as follows. What is this wonderful phenomenon? The affection of the inhabitants of Braj, including me, toward these boys and calves is increasing as never before, just like our affection for Lord Krishna, the Super Soul, all living entities. Purport. As Yogamaya relaxed the first part of her influence, Balaram thought about these wonders. He was seeing. It astonishes me how the mothers have the same love for their sons as they previously had for Krishna. It was also amazing how Balaram himself was experiencing the same love he feels for Krishna upon seeing those boys. Did you get it? Go ahead. Crying for Krishna. I'll chant. What's the verse? The Shastika about tears flowing from their eyes. Oh my dear Lord, when will my eyes be beautified with filling tears that constantly glide down as I chant your holy name? When will my voice falter and all the hairs on my body stand erect in transcendental happiness as I chant your holy name? Lord Chaitanya is bringing us this love. He's offering it to everybody freely. And we see all walks of life, all cultures, all people, all languages. Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That same love that these residents of Vrindavan are feeling for Krishna is inherent in that holy name. What's the other one? Nam Namakari Bhavadamija Sarva Shaktis. Sarva Shakti means Sarva means all, and Shakti means energy. Everything, even that love, Raja Prema, is inherent within Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Balaram continuing to consider how he was bewildered. Who is this mystic power? Where does she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna. For who else can bewilder me? Purport. As Yogamaya removed the second part of her influence, Balaram thought for a moment about this and invoked his power of omniscience to understand the cause of his surprise. Balaram considered, it is definitely a display of mystic power of Maya. But what kind of Maya and who caused it? Is it the Daivi Maya of the demigods like Brahma, appearing as boys and calves to test their ability and to attract us to them? Are these boys not really Sri Ram and others? Is it Nadi Maya, created by some sages who are testing their knowledge by assuming the forms of the boys and calves? Is it some Rakshashi Maya, employed by the demons like Kamsa, who, failing to kill us by their strength, have resorted to some tricks to kill us by disguising themselves as boys and calves? As the third portion of Yogamaya dissolved, Balaram again considered, this mystical change must have been caused by the Yogamaya potency of my master, Krishna. Though other potencies cannot bewilder me, even though I cannot check this power of Krishna's Yogamaya, which is filled with pure knowledge. On the other hand, the Mahamaya of my expansion, Mahavishnu, who creates the Mahatattva, easily bewilders Brahma and all others. Thinking in this way, Lord Balaram was able to see with the eye of transcendental knowledge that all these calves and Krishna's friends were expansions of the form of Sri Krishna. Balaram said to Krishna, O Supreme Controller, these boys are not great demigods, as I had previously thought, nor are these calves great sages like Narada. Now I can see that you alone are manifesting yourself in all varieties of difference. Although one, you are existing in different forms in the calves and boys. Please, briefly explain this to them. Having thus been requested by Lord Baladev, Krishna explained the whole situation, and Baladev understood. Purport: thus Balaram could understand all of this only after looking at Krishna. With the intent of this verse, with this intent, the verse is spoken. Balaram said, it is not possible that the demigods, sages, or demons became the boys. Actually, I see that all these boys and calves are you. Although one, please tell me why you are existing in different forms of calves and boys. Upon inquiring from Krishna, Balaram understood everything about the Brahma, the Mohana Lila. So thus, I tried to show, by narrating this Lila, how adding the ingredient of Krishna changes everything. So it's not a mundane story about a boy that got angry, frustrated, envious, went to the forest, came back, and everybody was happy to see him. Because he saw Krishna and had Krishna realization, he carried Krishna with him. Thereafter, he's not of this reflected existence. And therefore, that is why Sukadeva Goswami, Maitreya, Vidura, and great sages enjoy hearing this narration. So are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Thank you. In Queen Kunti's prayers, she prays to the Lord, please sever my tie of affection for Pandavas and Vishnus. They're all great devotees of the Lord. And it seems like a similar situation. Can you give the nuance behind why she would pray like that?
Nice, sweet prayer. In everything there's a balance. Last week, when we were speaking about this lamentation of Dhruva Maharaj, we were talking about how, on one hand, that association which deters us, distracts us from our Krishna consciousness is unwanted. Whereas that affection or association which enhances our appreciation and love for Krishna is wanted. So, Queen Kunti probably had mixed love for her children. She's seeing them as Krishna's devotees, that was obvious, but nonetheless, she had some affection for them as children. So she's not saying, please sever my affection for your devotees. She's saying, please sever my illusionary concept that I'm their mother. In this, they're not eternally, of course they might be, but when they're manifested here, that love for Krishna, one of the nice things that makes the Rasa Lila, as we'll be reading 5:30 to 6:30 every night, is that the gopis' love for Krishna was Ekiha Gurunandana. It was so focused on Krishna that nothing else, like Arjuna when he was shooting that crow, Dronacharya had the target, it was eye of the bird, all he saw was the eye. So Queen Kunti's prayers is one filled with rasa, that please don't let anything distract my love for you, even my affection for my sons and family members. That's my understanding of that prayer and sentiment. She's not saying, please sever my attraction for your devotees. That doesn't make sense. She's saying, please sever my illusory relationship that's based on this body. I don't want that anymore. I don't want that hindering my love for you. Any other questions or comments? Srimad Bhagavatam Lecture.